So it's been a little over a month since the first transfer portal window closed in college football. And in the time that's passed, there has been no shortage of topics for us to discuss. Whether we've been talking about coaching moves, recruiting news, or the NCAA floating new rules for college football, there's been a lot of intrigue. But today it's time for us to turn our attention back to the transfer portal. Because though the transfer portal news hasn't halted, it has hit a trickle. But today we need to evaluate that trickle. Because somehow in that trickle, Coach Prime in Colorado got a massive win out the transfer portal for a very gifted wide receiver in Xavier Weaver. Today, we need to break this down. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill. I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes, N for no. Are you excited that Coach Prime in Colorado lands Xavier Weaver? And let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it, and we're on a push to 20,000 subscribers. I'd love to have you a part of this unbelievable journey, and if you enjoyed the content, like and comment down below. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And first and foremost, who is Xavier Weaver? Well, Xavier Weaver is a very gifted wide receiver who hails from the state of Florida and who's played his collegiate career thus far with USF. And one of the things that's interesting, in my opinion, about Xavier Weaver is when we start diving into the stats, this previous season, 2022 and 2021, he saw a major increase in production. Because during the course of both the 21 and 22 seasons, he eclipsed 700 yards receiving and went over 13 yards per reception on both of those seasons. And if you're Colorado, Sean Lewis and Coach Prime, you love that. What's even more intriguing, in my opinion, is you already had a big win from USF if you were Colorado. A wide receiver that a lot of people aren't talking about right now, but give it time, he's going to be the talk of the town, in Jimmy Horn Jr., someone who USF used in a myriad of ways. Whether that was just terrorizing defenses with him as a wide receiver or utilizing him as a special teams gamesman, Jimmy Horn Jr. is an offensive weapon personified, and I cannot wait to see how Sean Lewis utilizes him. But it gets even more intriguing whenever now Sean Lewis is able to utilize Jimmy Horn Jr. and Xavier Weaver when he has film of those two working together, and I think that's going to be a big win for Colorado. And whenever we look at this Colorado offense is going to be a ton of fun, and a lot of it has come through the transfer portal, and it is no doubt that the transfer portal is hooking up Coach Prime. And speaking of hooking up, we need to talk about how Home Field is hooking it up for viewers of Around the Table Sports. Guys, Home Field has been my go-to shop for college football apparel because I'm really into vintage logos and designs, and Home Field has the best. Home Field provides awesome fanwear for several teams, and they have you covered. Whether you need t-shirts, sweatshirts, or sweatpants, Home Field is your one-stop shop for college football apparel. And for this channel, Home Field is hooking it up with 15% off new customers when you use code ATTS15. Once again, that's 15% off new customers' first order when you use code ATTS15. Thank you so much to Home Field, and back to the video. So with all the wins that Coach Prime has gotten out the transfer portal and in recruiting, it's easy to see why people are excited about this offense and what it could look like. Whenever you think about the offenses Sean Lewis has coached, the offenses he's put together at Kent State, those have all been dangerous offenses, but now you look at some of the weapons that Colorado and Coach Prime are adding in. If we look at recruiting, we all know about Dylan Edwards. He is speed personified, a running back that several institutions in the nation wanted, and Colorado was very lucky to be able to flip from Notre Dame, but it's not just relegated to Dylan Edwards. We could look at Adam Hopkins and Omarion Miller, both of which four-star blue-chip wide receivers who both come in as top 300 prospects in the class of 2023, regardless of position. But it's not relegated to simply recruiting. We've been talking this entire video about the transfer portal wins that Coach Prime and Colorado have gotten. What about the transfer portal wins they've gotten on the offensive side of the ball? How is that going to help them advance and continue to improve during the course of the 2023 season? Well, one thing we know about utilizing the transfer portal, the guys out the transfer portal give you something that recruiting just doesn't. The prospect at getting someone with experience. And that's the luxury the transfer portal affords you. And if you're Coach Prime and you're trying to do a rebuild, utilizing the transfer portal can be very, very powerful. And he's done it so well. With this addition, they're back to having the #1 transfer portal class in the nation. But I really want to focus in on some of the offensive pieces here, because it really begins to paint the picture of why Colorado fans are so excited for this offense, and it makes a lot of sense. We talked about Dylan Edwards, the running back they got through recruiting, but what about Kavasier Smoke, the running back they got out of the transfer portal? And if Dylan Edwards is lightning, Kavasier smoke is thunder. And I really hope we see some 2 running back sets to utilize them both at the same time, because I think that would give defense fits, personally. If we're talking about other skill positions they've gotten, we've already talked about Jimmy Horn Jr., someone who I think college football is going to be raving about once the season starts. But what about Seydou Traore? You know, if you've been around this channel for any extended period of time, you've probably heard me talk time and time again about how tight ends are the biggest mismatches in football right now. And it's not just relegated to the college game. If you tuned into the Super Bowl, what a great example. The Eagles using their tight end, Kansas City obviously using theirs. Tight ends are just a mismatch in the game of football right now, and Colorado got a great one out the transfer portal, and personally, I think it's one of the better moves out the transfer portal that nobody is talking about, but we'll talk about that specifically at a later date, just kind of giving you a little bit of an appetizer there. One of the things that's so intriguing about Traore is that he came to the college game as a wide receiver standing 6'4". However, when he got to college, once he hit the college strength and conditioning room, he transitioned from wide receiver to tight end. Now, why that's so intriguing is because he becomes an instant mismatch. He's going to be way too athletic for a lot of linebackers to cover him and too big for safeties to try and match up with him. And if he continues to advance as a blocker, he is going to be a player you have got to keep up with, because I think he is very, very gifted. But inevitably, every single time I talk about the wins that Coach Prime and Colorado have gotten out the transfer portal, especially if it's wins in the skill position area, people hit the comments, and rightfully so. They ask, but what about the offensive line? What work have they done on the offensive line? Well, if we look in the transfer portal, they've done some good work on the offensive line. How about Yusef Mergabil, the former 4-star blue-chip offensive lineman who played for the Florida Gators? However, injury kind of derailed his career with the Gators, but he finds his way to Boulder. What about Tyler Brown, Landon Beebe, and Savion Washington? And in the case of Savion Washington, this was an individual that transferred from Kent State. He already knows Sean Lewis's offense, and if Sean Lewis said, hey, I want that guy, if he's willing to come to Colorado, I will be very happy to take him, that's probably a pretty good indication that he will be just fine. Plus, he is a massive human being. Standing like 6'8", he is just a massive human being. And then the cherry on top of it all is quarterback Shedeur Sanders, who transfers from Jackson State to Colorado. And all Shedeur Sanders has done since he's hit the college game is back up that he was a blue chip prospect coming out of high school. And I'm really excited to see what he's able to do with Sean Lewis as his offensive coordinator, but some of these weapons at his disposal, because I think they have gotten some massive additions out the transfer portal, and Xavier Weaver is just the latest of those massive additions. But I can't wait to hear from all of you. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you think about this win. That's it. See ya.